So, Jake, three successive wins. That's the first time we've achieved that since November. You must be delighted with this upturn in form.
Yeah, obviously, very much so. I wasn't aware of that actually. It does feel a long time since we've had consecutive wins on the bounce, but yeah, it couldn't have come at a better time. Three really good wins at this stage of the season. I wouldn't say brilliant performances, but we've done enough in each game to get the 3 points.
And of course, at home this weekend against Hendon, and that's a chance, obviously, to win four on the bounce. And actually, I was doing some number crunching. It's been October since we did that, so there's a chance actually to equal our best run, because that was our best run actually of the season in terms of wins on the bounce.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, great opportunity. But what I would say is that looking at Hendon's position, they are absolute desperate for the 3 points, aren't they? So it's a dangerous time to play them. Obviously, they've had a little bit of an upturn in form. Have signed some new players previously to the deadline. Had a couple of half decent results. So yeah, like any game in this league, last week was proven that anyone can beat anyone. That's going to be a very dangerous game, that Hendon. Obviously, they're desperate for the points to stay up. But, a game that we feel that on the back of a lot of confidence. We've never totally lost our confidence as a group, but confidence is very high in training last night. It really felt we're all in a good place. So really looking forward to the Hendon game, and let's hope everyone can get behind us and hopefully score early to calm the nerves. And yeah, to get four wins on the trot at this stage of the season would be amazing. But I still think there's twists and turns to come in this season. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, both of us have been involved in football for years, and we know exactly what happens at the business end of the season. There's all sorts of things that can go for you or go against you. But of course, from the club's point of view, it's two home games left now. And looking at the league table, it's probably going to be our last two home games, because if we get the playoffs, it's likely we're probably going to be playing away, both if we get to the semi-finals and then obviously the final if we were to get that far. So really great opportunity for the fans to do their bit and get this team over the line.
Yeah, I agree. I look back at some of the home games this year, and like I said previously, it really did bring back memories of the atmosphere and the environment that we had several years ago when we were doing well. The Folkestone game at home sticks out, and obviously the Dartford, and then we had the two community days, which were really good. And the fans and the atmosphere is going to play a massive part. If we can get them sort of numbers up there for the next two games, it's definitely going to help us. And obviously, we've got two difficult games on the road with Dartford and Chichester, last one. So the two home games are going to be absolutely vital and could possibly make or break our season.
Because actually, it would be nice, wouldn't it, to go into that final game having at least secured the playoffs. Of course, we'll take whatever comes, but to get into that position would be quite nice.
Yeah, it would. It would be really nice. But, the way the season's gone, and as well as we know football, Justin, I think we can probably both preempt what's going to happen here, can't we? I always felt it would come down to the final game. Let's hope we do enough before that. But if that's what it is, then at least it gives us a chance, and it's in our hands as such. And after the run after the poorer run we had after the great start, it'd still be good to be in that position.
Now, is this the sort of time of the year that you love, or you end up pulling your hair out? Because it's very stressful, isn't it? But at the same time, every game matters.
Yeah, I mean, I think, do you know what? I am relishing it. And one of the reasons why I'm relishing it is that nothing's really changed, that we haven't had that many fresh faces. Obviously, Ryan Hansen's come in and been a fresh face. But other than that, really, obviously Quakes as well. But other than that, we're really settled. Everyone, is fully aware of what's expected. Everyone knows their roles and responsibilities. And because all the boys, and it's been so close-knit, everyone's desperate. Really desperate to achieve. So, I'm going into these last four and the playoffs, if we can make it. Really confident we're going to give a good account of ourselves.
Now, this is the first time we've spoken since you signed Ryan Hansen a few weeks ago. He's obviously got quite a few minutes under his belt now for us. How do you feel he's done, and what a difference has he made to the team, would you say?
I think he's done ever so well. I mean, I always knew he was a good player, but obviously seeing him close up in training, especially, he's a very good player. Such a calming influence, can do all aspects of the game. Very good player. Really, really pleased to get him at this stage of the season. Obviously, thank Jay at Tunbridge for allowing us to have him. And obviously now with Wilco breaking his collarbone. Yeah, I really think he was a massive bonus at just the right time.
Of course, he's a player that, he's been at pro clubs, he's played nationally, he's had a couple of seasons in the National League. So I suppose he'd be a little bit disappointed to be at our level at the moment. But you look at him and he really has still got the potential to climb the divisions, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't give a lot away, Ryan. He keeps himself to himself, very quiet, unassuming guy. I'm sure he has aspirations, to get back to the levels he was at. And obviously, the only reason why he's here really is he's been very unfortunate. He's had a few injuries, but injuries like, he's had a few concussions and I was only speaking to him last night. He hasn't had any injuries like hamstrings or muscle injuries. It's just been a few impact injuries which has set him back. But so far, like I say, I think he's probably played every minute of every game for us since he's got in. Yeah, and I'm really really pleased with him, and hopefully longer term we can keep him about. But obviously that's another conversation for another day.
Yeah, I saw him in a game a couple of weeks ago at home. I can't remember who it was against now, but he was very tidy, didn't waste the pass really, looked very composed. And I always think when a player does that, it shows a little bit of class really.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that. But he can do the other side of the game as well. He's dominant in both boxes. He makes good decisions. He's a great passer of the ball. Like I say, a real calming influence, and it's definitely sort of helped us, ticked us over. Scored a great goal in his debut, didn't he, as well? So he can score as well. So yeah, like I say, a great timing for him to come along, and lucky to have him.
Now, it must be pleasing to see the boys start to fire up front because obviously we had a bit of a goal drought up there, didn't we, for a couple of months? And it was great to see Nick I now. He's actually got on the score sheet a couple of times. Obviously, Ruben has got on the score sheet, and of course, Babs.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at their numbers throughout this season, it's quite remarkable. And considering, when they got their numbers, I think Baps has been pretty much consistent throughout, has got steady amount of goals. And obviously, Ruben and more so Nick had a drop off in that respect. But Ruben's all round play has been spot on. There was no dip in form from that. It just the goals weren't going on. And obviously, Nick Hadge went through this a little bit of period, which generally forwards have, and especially young boys have, and I think it did affect him. And there was difficult decisions at stages to stick with him, but we did stick with him, and he stuck with us. And eventually, he sort of got that great finish at Cray, and it's almost like we've signed a new player the last few weeks. Yeah, he's smiling, which is unlike Nick Argy. He doesn't smile that often, but it's nice to see him smiling, nice to see him happy. How long that will last, we shall see.
Well, let's hope he's happy sort of this time next month because that will mean one thing and one thing only that we got promoted. That'd be wonderful, wouldn't it? But obviously, so I've just lost my train of thought. 1 second. Yeah. Okay. Right. So I mean, obviously, we're on a good run. I mean, but what would you say has been the upturn? What's behind it? Would you say?
No, I don't think there's anything in particular. I really don't. I know it was doom and gloom, but I never got to that stage, and the lads didn't get to that stage. I honestly felt we had a lot of luck early on in the season, and then we sort of, we didn't get a little bit of luck. There was a couple of, if you look at the Billericay goal against us, the deflected free kick, and then obviously the Horsham fluke goal that went in over Jordan's head. And there was a little bit of that last minute goal, Cray, sort of things went against us a little bit. But obviously, like Saturday just gone, lots of things went for us, didn't they? Obviously, with, they missed the penalty, didn't they, to go 2-0 up, and that would have been a totally different game. So I think there's a little bit of that, but I've always said I think it evens itself out throughout the season. And obviously, wins breed confidence, and everyone's in a good place. But like we've just said, Justin, football can change just like that.
Absolutely, but on another positive front, of course, there's good news about Mitch. He's been he's been training, hasn't he, Mitch?
Yeah, he's back in training. He's been back in training. He should be back in full training as of next week. He hasn't had any reactions. He looks in great shape. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see where that one goes.
Yeah, what's he been like around the place? Because he's been around, hasn't he? He's not just been at home watching telly. He's he's been at Crabble. He's been on the road with us. What's it been like having him around, even though he hasn't been able to play?
Well, Mitch is a bit like myself in that respect. He's seen it all before, and he doesn't give a lot away, Mitch. You wouldn't have thought that, he's been out injured, really. He's been exactly the same as he was when he was playing. You got people like Nick Hadge. It's all doom and gloom when it's not going his way, and he really shows it. But Mitch hasn't shown any of that. He's been as you'd expect, and the reason why we brought him here, absolute class. He's a class act. He really is, and I know he's desperate to get back, and that will obviously be a huge bonus for us.
Now, we were talking about twists and turns earlier. I don't think we anticipated that Cray Valley Paper Mills were going to get some points deducted. I looked at the league table and couldn't believe that they're actually below us, and then saw that they had filled in an eligible player. Obviously, we don't like to profit out of other clubs' misfortune, of course not. But yet again, another twist there.
Exactly that, isn't it? Another twist, and you never know what's around the corner, do you? I mean, obviously, it's unfortunate for Cray, and I wouldn't want to put on record anything other than, but I was a little bit disappointed with the league regarding the Lewis result at Cray when the game got abandoned, because if you remember earlier on in the season with the Wingate Folkestone, that match stood, so couldn't quite get my head round. I mean, look, I didn't really delve into it, so I wasn't sure what minutes the abandon was and all that, but sometimes I feel what goes around comes around. I'm a big fan of that. I often think that, and maybe that's part of that. But look, 3-4 games to go, and there's Chichester and Hashtag aren't out of it yet either.
No, that's right. It really is all to play for. And of course, Dartford, that's a huge game, isn't it? As a Kent derby, it's going to be, massive crowd there. And of course, they're going to want revenge after obviously our 5-1 win against them earlier in the season.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they've done absolutely amazing. They were, they really struggled, didn't they, earlier on? And fair play to Adi. He was a great guy. He's got a lot of experience. I've known Adi a long time, obviously with our Forest Green battles, and obviously Paul Hyde knows Adi from the Gillingham days. So yeah, we've always had great respect for each other. I think he goes about his business very well, AD. And if they do go on and win it, fair play. To have the recovery they've had. But maybe we can play a part in that. We had a terrific result against Dartford. I remember at the time thinking, it didn't feel like that big a margin of the game. I think was it 5. I think it's 5-1. Was it 5-1? I think
5-1,
it's 5-1 at the time. We scored some unbelievable goals on that day. And they will definitely be out for revenge. And I've had quite a few people go and watch Dartford lately, and they say they're a very, very strong side. So it's going to be very difficult. But obviously, we've got Hendon first.
Yeah, are you surprised how well they've done actually? Because when we were looking at the table earlier in the season, it really did look like Billericay, didn't it? They looked like the strongest side in the division by a country mile at one point. Apart from ourselves, obviously, with our form, unbelievable form. But has that surprised you? I mean, the fact that they've managed to get themselves clear up there like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the league table all them months ago, it has surprised me a little bit. Although to be fair to the chairman, he backed them very early on. He did back them very early on, so I'll give the chairman a bit of credit there. And Cray Valley have been ever so consistent, haven't they, throughout? So they've been up there all season pretty much. And Billericay, have got an amazing squad. They've got so many good players. They've got so many boys to pick from, and you think they've just had a little blip, but you think then they get themselves, back winning. It's going to be really exciting last 4 games.
So we're talking about friends in football. Of course, Jay Saunders, a very good friend of yours. You know very well in the game, and he's gone over to Folkestone Invicta.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I knew Jay years and years ago when we played together at Margate, and actually, Mike, my assistant Salmon, is a even bigger friend to Jay. I think he speaks to him quite regularly. He was with him at Margate, and I really got to thank Jay really, because obviously he put us onto Ruben to start with, and obviously Francis Manpaolo as well, and obviously allowed us to have Ryan. So unfortunately, now he's going to focus on. I don't imagine he's going to do us any favours, is he? So we've lost a good contact as such there. I mean, I'm sure we'll stay friends, but obviously we're going to be. It's going to be sort of rivals now. But I think it's a great signing for Folkestone. Obviously, he's got a great track record. It's not so good for us because I think they'll be very competitive next year. But it's not easy. It's not easy, no matter what club you are, what budget you got. There's pros and cons, but I wish him all the best and look forward to maybe the games next year, unless we can get ourselves up.
Now, Jake, it's always, it's very time consuming this time of year, as it always is as a football manager. I bet you're barely off your phone each day. And this time of year, you've got all the planning beyond the games. There's all that stress because they're really big matches. Do you actually get any time away? Is there actually any day in the week that you ever manage to not even think about football, or is that completely impossible?
No, it's totally impossible. Obviously, I've got two boys that play as well, so my rest day Sunday is taken up by watching them, or actually coach my youngest as well. So, yeah, it's a football madhouse. It literally is 7 days a week. But to be honest, it's something that I've always done, and something I really enjoy.
And just finally, mate, a word to the fans. As I say, those two big games at home, you just want them to all come in their numbers, don't you, and just make a load of noise.
Yeah, I mean, like I said again, it's like I look back at a few of them games this season, and it sort of sent goosebumps down the back of your neck like it did in the old days. A big crowd up there. I mean, like I say, I know it was an evening game. The first evening game against Folkestone was, where the kickoff was delayed. It was absolutely electric, and if I know, I'm clutching at straws trying to get them numbers in the next two games. But the support has been really good this season. And we've definitely given them something to cheer about. I appreciate we've had a real difficult patch during Christmas period at home. Although we carried on performing very well away and picking up the points, it was a shame really our home results weren't our away results as such. I think that would have created a lot more positivity because we went a little bit negative there, didn't we, during that period? But we've managed to stick together. And hopefully we can all have something to cheer about last two games, and the more the merrier for the next two. I'd really like to get up in the thousands again to cheer the boys and see them through.